All right, welcome to Studio 32, 1035. You know, Caitlin, when we show up to work, you always just hope it's going to be a positive day, where you get in and there are more positive stories and less negative stories. And just how disheartening is it to have another situation like this just, I mean, a matter of days after everything we saw in Utah. It is just awful.
I feel like it's kind of like the vibe of the world right now. It's kind of this stressed, dark feeling, and hopefully we can climb out of this soon. But to your point, you know, when things like this happen, it kind of just changes the mood of everyone, not only at our workplace, but every workplace. On social media, as Anita said, she's seeing all these different reports come in, or the people who are, you know, throwing out theories of what happened or why it happened, and maybe furthering the combat feeling on social media amongst friends and family and coworkers.
Yeah, the divisive rhetoric. We heard Senator Cruz there basically saying everybody needs to, in his words, political violence need to stop. He called on all politicians to stop all anti-ICE rhetoric. We've actually seen, you know, a lot of the drama unfolding, not to that level, obviously, but in the south suburbs in Broadview. Joni has been on the scene where things have gotten so tense, even here locally. Now, you know, just the fact that this individual who was on the rooftop, I'm not sure about the security situation at the ICE facility down in Broadview, but as we reported on Good Day Chicago this morning, there's now a conflict underway between village authorities and the federal authorities down there because of what the village is calling illegal fencing that has gone up. And so I wonder how this changes the dynamic of that conversation, because there's a bunch of barriers, a bunch of fencing that recently went up outside the Broadview ICE facility, and local authority, the municipality, is taking exception with that. But yes, if you are just joining us this morning, yeah, another tragedy, this time unfolding in Dallas, right outside an ICE facility there. Very basic details at this point, but 4 people shot, 2 of them fatal. One of the fatalities was the shooter, who, you know, the gun person in this incident. At this point, the most specifics we have, they're calling it an act of targeted violence. Early evidence, so this is not, you know, a final report or confirmation, but the spokesperson for the FBI there said that early evidence indicates that there is some evidence around the scene of where the shooter was, indicating that there was an anti-ICE sentiment on display right where the evidence was found. So far, they are not releasing any of the names or identification of any of the victims. But there's something incongruent here, because even though they say early indications are that this was an anti-ICE act of violence, they are not saying that any ICE agents were hurt. They have actually confirmed that none of the victims were members of law enforcement. So we're trying to make kind of sense out of that.
Vehicle. I heard that detail too. There was a vehicle that had people in it, so maybe this shooter, if they were anti-ICE, they didn't know who was inside of this vehicle. So the vehicle that they shot, maybe they didn't intend to hit the people that they hit. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of details that are still being worked out about that. And you know, coming up here shortly, we're going to be joined by someone who used to work with the FBI to ask him questions. I think my curiosity is, what's the next step? So they're obviously going to try to get to the bottom of this. Do they immediately first start with this person who the shooter, even though he has since, I think he shot himself as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Going to see, you know, the evidence behind why he did what he did, maybe go visit his family's home, whoever this person is. Like, do they have a checklist of things that they go through after an incident like this?
We're going to talk to him in just a moment. He's hopping on a call right now. Also, there have been a number of major news outlets, including the Fox station in Dallas, who we were checking in all morning, ABC and NBC News, all reporting that one of the fatalities and 2 of the victims, at least 2 of the victims, are detainees. And one interesting thing about that news conference is that they were willing to say that the early evidence indicates that this was an anti-ICE act of violence, but they would not confirm any of those media reports saying that a number of the victims were detainees. So that's what we know right now. Again, they're not releasing the identity of any of the victims. The person from the FBI said that they are going to be likely updating the situation later today. And in the meantime, you know, we heard the mayor there just asking for prayers, thanking the law enforcement involved, and like you said, Caitlin, urging patience and calm in a situation like this.
You know, I'm looking at some of the details that were coming out this morning about this particular ICE facility. They also had bomb threats at this ICE facility. So, you know, the concern moving forward about federal facilities, people who work in these high-profile federal buildings, do they need to change the security detail? Maybe add in more cameras? You know, this person was on top of another building, which, like, how far can you go? But I can imagine if you work at a federal building, if you work at an ICE facility, you're probably on high alert. What are we going to do moving forward? And then, you know, how long is this heaviness going to be sitting over our country? And
well, that's the thing that really gets me, is that with the dynamic that you alluded to, it's like, what's the off-ramp for this?
yeah, what's the solution?
Yeah, is there an like this doesn't end well when this is the dynamic at all. There has to be de-escalation of this, and you know, we heard Senator Cruz kind of allude to that at the end of the remarks there, political violence needing to stop. But that's what you know, we've been talking about anxiety so much on this show, managing anxiety, the anxiety levels that we're seeing in, you know, and even the young kids, you know, kids.
Right.
And this is the kind of thing that it's, yeah, it really is an epidemic.
I just wish, I just feel like the only way is to have constructive conversation. Obviously on social media, I mentioned this earlier, it's not happening. I think everyone is very high energy, as you mentioned, high anxiety. And I think that it's coming on strong. And so there's the problem that we're at right now, that crossroads, that off-ramp that you mentioned, it's this understanding of each other. And I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I think that understanding of one another is not what social media is designed for.
Right.
Sometimes I feel like, you know, obviously with this role, we kind of hold back our personal opinions. We report the facts on the news. But a lot of times when I'm on social media, I feel like I'm watching a tennis match between like the most vocal, extreme elements of each side, and that, you know, you would just hope that the overwhelming and vast majority of folks on both sides are not.
You can be open-minded.
Exactly, open-minded to listening to the other side. We have Ross Rice on the line right now. We often go to Ross as a retired FBI agent in situations like this to add a little bit of context, add a little bit of perspective from a law enforcement point of view. Ross, were you able to see the news conference in Dallas a few moments ago, or are you just now catching up on the whole situation?
No, I listened to the conference as it was taking place.
Can you comment, as Anthony doesn't have his USB hooked up
I
just
missed
yet?
his response. I had to switch my earpiece. He did watch it. Okay, go ahead, Caitlin. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are your first reactions to this? What do you think that it's a scramble going on there right now? Is it panic ensuing amongst the FBI unit and the police department there in Dallas?
No, there's no panic, Caitlin. The shooter apparently committed suicide after the attack. There's no threat to the public right now, and what's going to happen going forward is investigators are going to try and identify this person, determine what his or her motivations were, and more importantly, determine if he or she acted alone or was aided and abetted by someone else.
Okay, one thing that kind of struck or stood out to me watching that, Ross, was that the person from the FBI was able to say publicly that there's early evidence that indicates this was an anti-ICE act of violence. At the same time, there have been all kinds of published reports that at least one of the victims in this shooting was a detainee, presumably an immigrant. By process of elimination, if like they said, no law enforcement agents were victims of this shooting. Can you shed any light into why they wouldn't confirm those reports? There were reporters on the ground asking repeatedly, were any of the victims that were killed or hurt detainees? They refused to answer.
Well, I think they did, Anthony. I think they made a very clear statement, at least from what I heard. The shooter opened fire with a rifle from a distance of a couple hundred yards away, and he was targeting an ICE van that was either entering or leaving the facility.
And I'm talking about the victims. You know, they were being asked to confirm whether any of the victims were detainees, and they stopped short of answering that question.
Well, they said that no law enforcement personnel were injured. So I think that kind of by process of elimination, that tells you that it was detainees. And the reason that they apparently attributed the attack as targeting ICE was due to evidence that was found at the crime scene, specifically the area where the shooter committed suicide.
Do you think the next step then is going to be investigating this person that you mentioned that did the shooting?
Absolutely, Caitlin. They're going to be looking into his or her background. What was the motivation? I'm quite confident that there will be some type of social media posting that was put out by this person claiming responsibility for the attack and giving a motive. But what they're really going to be looking for is, was this person encouraged or assisted in any way by someone else to carry this out? And then you would have a conspiracy and additional charges forthcoming.
Right. Okay. The fact that this happened from a nearby rooftop, and we have been watching such tension unfold in Broadview here locally. How do you feel like this incident will have an impact on how these ICE facilities across the country will be impacted?
That's a great question, Anthony. Obviously, the threat matrix is rising, and how do you protect yourself in an urban environment? It's almost impossible to do that. If these threats continue unabated, I have a feeling they're going to rethink the location of their facilities, their detention facilities, and move them to more rural locations, like the one that was open a couple months ago during the summer in Florida, out in the middle of nowhere. That would greatly mitigate the threat risk to both the detainees and ICE personnel, which obviously is the first priority.
As an FBI agent, you mentioned how you expect that there was probably a social media posting about this beforehand. Do you find that this makes it easier to get to the bottom of these situations, or does it make it more difficult, convoluted? And also, moving forward, do you think that we should be, you know, as a country, watching these posts closer? What's the solution there?
Well, I think, Caitlin, if there was a post, it was going to be issued right before the shooting began. I'm not a social media expert, but I think there's ways that you can enter information, then have it posted at a later date. Obviously, someone that's going to carry out an attack like this isn't going to publicize their intentions in advance because they want to be successful in carrying out the attack. And if you look back at any shooting incident, mass shooting, school shooting that we've had in the last 20 years, the shooters don't put a threat out ahead of time. They just act. And those are the threats that are almost impossible to predict and to prevent from happening, especially if the person is acting alone. They're not seeking assistance from anyone else. They're not broadcasting in advance what they're going to do, making it more of a reactive situation for law enforcement.
How quickly do you see this investigation unfolding, Ross?
Boy, I would say within a week or two, they'll have enough information to go forward. The problem you're going to have, Anthony, from your standpoint, from a media standpoint and the public standpoint, if this guy acted alone, he's deceased, there aren't going to be any criminal charges. So there's not going to be an indictment, there's not going to be a complaint, and it will be up to the investigating authorities to issue a report explaining what their investigation has determined, who was responsible for this and what his or her motivations were.
Ross, we always appreciate your perspective. Thank you for jumping on with us so quickly on another tough morning here on Chicago Now.
Yeah, it sure is. My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, take care of yourself. Okay, we are going to take a quick break. We have more Chicago Now when we come back.
Get big.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. It is 10:52. So now we are taking a journey of remembrance. Father and son retrace Holocaust history. We are joined by Michael and Andrew Lowenthal, and we're reflecting on remembrance, resilience, and the lessons history still teaches us today. So our next guests bring a powerful story across generations. Michael Lowenthal, which Michael is right here next to me. He was liberated as a child from Bergen-Belsen concentration camp 80 years ago, and this past spring he returned to that site with his son Andrew, retracing painful memories, but also honoring survival, family, and the importance of keeping memory alive. Thank you for joining us this morning, gentlemen. So let's start at the beginning. So you're both from Chicago, first of all.
Yes.
Yes.
And so this was a big trip. Was this something that you've wanted to do for years, or was this something spur of the moment?
Well, the Bergen-Belsen has a commemoration every 5 years.
Okay.
So this was my third trip to the camp.
All right.
And, but my reactions are pretty much the same each time.
Okay. Can we dive into that?
How many of you are there, survivors in 2025, that attend those every few years, those commemorations?
Well, I think when I was there this time, there were like 120 survivors from Bergen-Belsen.
And to clarify, Michael was you said 7.5 years old
I was
when you were
7,
liberated from that camp.
In 1943, 44, yeah.
Wow. Wow. And Andy, how many times, if ever before, was this your first time going back? Or?
This is my second time. My dad and myself and my dad's wife Amy went in 2016. My dad they opened a museum on what was the former site of the camp, and they interviewed as many of the survivors as they could, and they brought them back in. So I was there with him for that. At the commemoration that we just went to, one of the most interesting things was there was 2 survivors, the youngest survivor and the oldest survivor.
Oh, wow.
The oldest was 100. And she was a woman in a wheelchair, but she got a lot of attention. She was interviewed quite a bit. And the youngest was born the day before the camp was liberated. So she...
Oh my gosh, so just a newborn kid.
Newborn
And so
baby.
you fall somewhere in the middle then.
Well, yeah, but there were actually quite a few older people I met at the commemoration who were actually born in Bergen-Belsen.
So you said too, wow, that's amazing that they had babies at that location. That's insane. You said you felt the same every time you went back. Can you describe what that feeling was?
It reminds me of what happened in the time I was there. And as I said, this was my third visit. And just to clarify, Bergen-Belsen was not a gas chambers kind of a camp. It was more of another. And when the British took over the camp in 1945, they leveled the camp totally. So right now there is no barracks or any of the items that we would normally see in a camp. There is a plastic site where you can see what it looked like theoretically, but there are several large mounds on the property, which if you didn't know, you would think it was just little hills in a garden, but these are really hills with many bodies are buried beneath it, and those mounds represent the people who died in the camp. And
so people did die there, even though it wasn't a gas chamber camp.
Just as explanation, my parents moved from Germany to Holland in 1937, and because Holland was neutral in the First World War, as Switzerland was in the Second World War. It turned out to be the Nazis took over Holland, and we were moved from Edam, which Edam cheese, where we lived, to Amsterdam, and from Amsterdam we were picked up and sent to Westerbork, which was the Dutch area German holding camp, and from Westerbork people went to Auschwitz. Every Tuesday there was a train that went to Auschwitz. My grandmother, who lived in Switzerland, was able to get us Peruvian passports from a friendly embassy employee. In fact, his granddaughter came to Chicago a number of weeks ago, and because of that, we were sent to the Bergen-Belsen Star Camp. The Star Camp was a facility where there were actually 92 people exchanged for German citizens in other countries. So it wasn't quite as torturous, I would say, as the other facilities. So,
can you speak on your day-to-day experience there? Do you remember talking to your family members or other people who went through it? Like, what was it like?
When then,
they do, yeah.
Then now, you mean?
No, in the camp.
Oh, and,
yeah.
I mean, when I went to the camp?
Right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, just wanted to finish the story. So we were in the Star Camp, and the Star Camp got very bad toward the end of the war as the Eastern Front collapsed. So then my parents died in December of 1944, and there was a family called Birnbaum who took over the orphans, and they had 6 children of their own, and the Birnbaums and myself and the 6 children all survived by the war.
Along with your grandmother?
No, my grandmother was in Switzerland.
Oh, she was
she was arranged.
But your parents did not make it.
But yeah, my parents died in December 44.
Andy, I want to bring you into the conversation. Going on this most recent journey over there, what were the emotions like for you visiting that site?
So one of the things that being amongst the survivors and their family members, it was a big commemoration. There's a lot of people, and there's this sense of resiliency across the entire 3 days of programming. That is one of the things I walked away with. And being with my dad and my wife and my brother and his wife and Amy was very meaningful for all of us to be together and just reflect on what my dad had gone through. One of my memories, I was looking back at the pictures from the trip, and I think you're scrolling them through, was us standing in front of the entry gate into Bergen-Belsen, kind of smiling and like a normal family picture. And then you think back 80 years ago, my dad and his family and his parents and other people were in these unbelievable, horrific conditions, and the fact that we were able to be there is kind of a statement that I walked away with.
Yeah, for sure. Is it the same entrance? Because your dad mentioned that a lot of it was just completely raised by the British.
Yeah, I mean it was all raised, but I think this might be a replica. But there's an entrance into the grounds where the museum is now, and it's
I don't think
period
any of
piece.
the original space is there anymore.
Michael, as we enter the Jewish high holidays, a season of reflection.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, what lessons from your journey do you hope resonate most with the community?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the trip was very meaningful for me because I was able to take two of my sons, their wives, and my wife Amy, so give them some idea of what happened. There is maybe a large museum there which does a fairly good job of depicting what went on. Even so, the Germans didn't take a lot of pictures of their own torturing, but the museum has a lot of information. So my reflections are that, you know, whenever I go there, I think of my mother and father, obviously, and all the suffering of the people who were there. I've done a lot of reading and history of it, so I kind of, in my own mind, while I may not have experienced everything, I know everything that went on because I've read several books and have seen the pictures. So I'm very aware of the suffering that went on at the camp.
With regard to the fact that we are kind of living in this wild social media environment where things like conspiracy theories are able to thrive and Holocaust denialism, any messages that either of you would want to share to our audience this morning about how to kind of navigate that difficult territory?
I think going back to my last comment, you know, human spirit shows a lot of resiliency. You've got, you know, don't look back, look forward. Look for greener pastures. If you're down, you know, it's natural to be affected by all of what we're experiencing right now and the instantaneousness of it, of which obviously is much different than what my father went through back in the 1940s. And take a step back and get away from it and go for a bike ride or go for a run on the lake or go out with friends. And like, that's so important in today's world because we're just constantly being inundated with so much information, and if you don't find a way to take it into your own hand to control that, I just feel like, you know, you can really go down a rabbit hole you do not want to be going down.
Amen.
To both of you, I imagine that you would want this story to be carried. I mean, to your point, if it gets you down, to obviously distract yourself, but if you want to carry this through the generations, do you have an idea of how you're going to do that?
Yeah. So one of the things my dad did, so we have he has 5 grandchildren. My brother has two children. I have 2 children. My other brother has 1. For each of their bar mitzvahs, my dad put together a binder that's about literally that thick.
Wow.
And it's just the history of our family. It's going back, you know, back into the 1800s of where our family came from, what jobs they had, what businesses they had, how they migrated. And so having that binder, I've been on somewhat of a speaking tour. I try to speak to kids. I think that's most important, and tell my dad's story. He's done that as well. I've also become very involved with the Illinois Holocaust Museum and the U.S. Holocaust Museum, but more with the local Illinois Holocaust Museum, which of course you know just opened their satellite location down here right on State Street. And it's very important for people to go there and understand what the story was and to have that as part of their, you know, of their memory and understand that this is what happened not very long ago. I mean, still less than 100 years ago.
Oh my gosh, it's yesterday.
Yeah.
In history, it's yesterday that this happened. All right, Michael Lowenthal, Andy, thank you so much for being. I will echo that. If you haven't visited there or the main campus up in Skokie, everyone should visit the Holocaust Museum. You don't need to go all the way to Washington, D.C. To experience what happened. Again, in history terms, that was yesterday. We really appreciate both of you coming in and joining us here on Chicago Now. Thank you both so much.
Well, thank you for having us. And there's an important message here. And just want to make a comment that anti-Semitism is becoming more prevalent in America today. But on the other hand, I wrote here, being Jewish in America is a luxury in relation to history. So we are able to fight the anti-Semitism and live a relatively normal life. And I think that's an important message that I'd like to everybody to know.
Be thankful for that. Gentlemen, thank you. And we are back with more Chicago Now right after this.
Fox Local.
Welcome back to the 11 o'clock hour of Chicago Now. We just got off some, breaking news of what's happening.
Very
over at
heavy.
the ICE facility, in Dallas. We're going to revisit that here at the end of the hour with Paris Schatz, our political reporter. He's going to come in, answer some questions, kind of give us an insight, maybe what we've missed in the last hour and a half since watching that press conference from Dallas just at the top of the hour, really, or at the 10 o'clock hour. But we're going to change the beat a little bit, talk about some fun stuff that's coming up at later on in the show.
Yeah.
Well, one really, I guess, is not very fun.
Which one?
It's talking about flu season,
shots,
right?
Yeah.
Because we know that cold weather's coming, classrooms
It's
are
getting there.
crowded, and vaccination rates might be down. So we're going to bring in a doctor to talk about this year's flu season, what's changing, some advice to keep families safe.
I gotta ask you, have you ever watched Abbott Elementary at all?
I have. I love the show.
The lines are incredible. I have to ask, because we're gonna have Lisa Ann Walter on the show, and I gotta ask her about this, if in fact those lines are like off the top of their head, because some of those lines are so witty. It seems like it's off the top of their head. She plays Melissa on the show if you watch. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's like a really good time.
She's kind of like the
spicy.
I was just gonna say sassy teacher on there.
She's definitely sassy.
I love that show. I've only actually watched one season. I got to revisit it.
Yeah.
So we also are going to be talking to her live from Zoom because she's gonna bring something to Batavia soon that you're not going to want to miss. But first, we have, of course, our trending topics.
It's a lot of things that are trending right now. Let's start out with this one. Chicago's own John Mulaney is set to make history at the Friendly Confines, and I'm talking about Wrigley Field. This is going to happen next year, but already people are very excited about this. You know, his comedy brings people from all around the world, but what's really amazing about this is that he is known for his sharp wit and his Chicago roots, because he's right here from the city of Chicago. So I think a lot of people are excited about that. Fans already buzzing online, promising that they're going to make sure they get their tickets and all of that. So I think that'll be a good time.
I did see some buzz on social media, actually. I ran into a post, and
what did it say?
Well, no, just like they're excited to see him at Wrigley Field, knowing that I think that he's a big Cubs fan too. So I'm curious to see how the turnout's going to be. I bet it's going to be a packed house.
We got to get him on the show to find out. Yeah, I think that's probably the next move after this, to find out, how he's feeling, what fans can expect, because that's a big space to have to fill.
It is.
And have a lot to talk about there. So I think it'll be interesting. I'm I'm also curious if he's going to pull from any other Chicago comedians to open for him. I'm always curious, like,
because sometimes they do.
Yeah, who takes the stage before to kind of like break the ice. And I like to see when they pull local acts. That's always good to see.
It is nice. I just watched actually his Netflix special not too long ago. It's called Baby J, and we watched it.
I haven't watched it.
We have one of my husband's best friends. We call him Baby J, and so we had to. I only got through like half of it. Guys, I wake up so early that I can barely get through, you know, a show or a movie that I'm looking forward to. So
wait a minute. Are you telling me you fell asleep or you were?
I fell asleep. Don't tell me
Not
that.
because you're boring.
Not because he's boring.
It's the time of day.
It's because I can't hang.
Explain to people, because I don't know if people really realize this. I think they think, you know, when they see you here, especially if they're not watching consistently every morning, they may think that you just pop up, you know, right before this. What time are you coming in usually to work?
Well, I get ready at I wake up, excuse me, at 2:30 a.m. And then I'm in by 4. But I try to be somewhat ready by 4 a.m. because then I start my traffic reports at 5 o'clock or any of my news reports. And then I continue through Good Day Chicago, and I get the end of the day right here with Chicago Now.
So what's funny about that is I worked that shift before too, here at Fox 32. And if you watch my reports, you would see an evolution of me is what I would call it. I would start out with at one point, actually, it actually happened on live TV. I put the lashes on so horribly in the news truck, and a burst of wind came, because we are the Windy City.
Yeah.
And I have the picture to this day. One was up,
so
flying in the wind, and the other one was down, flying downward in the wind. And it was so embarrassing, and people sent me screenshots of it. So I understand.
You know what? I tried getting ready in the live truck one time, and it just didn't work out for me. I got
the
foundation
lighting
on myself. It just did not work. So I have to get ready before I go to my shift.
But isn't it the lighting too?
It is the lighting.
It's
for
horrible.
Sure. No.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrible.
Anyway, so you just wake up.
Enough about our lives.
Let's talk about another trending topic. This is one, well, I guess we've kind of beaten down. This is still the Coldplay concert situation unfolded. So right now, 2 months after the then astronomer CEO, Andy Byron, was seen on camera at the Coldplay concert with Kristen Cabot, I think that's how you pronounce it, who was working in his company as a chief people officer. A source close to Cabot is speaking out for the first time to clarify the nature of their relationship, because there's a lot of speculation, as we knew. Byron, who's 51, had his arms wrapped around Cabot, 53, and then dunked out of the way, so when the camera was showing them, etc. We know that. But the instantly viral moment doesn't reflect the real story, according to a Cabot source, so a source related to her. In recent weeks, new details have emerged that about how Cabot was already divorcing her own husband before attending that Coldplay concert with Byron. Which maybe there was a little speculation that was happening, but there's other things said. The former CEO was reportedly married as well, but the Cabot source insists she was not breaking up a marriage.
Okay, let's go here. Okay. You're coming out to try to clean this up because this act of being caught like this has impacted your life. Big time. And I understand that. And I understand, you know, the ideology of trying to clean it up. But here's the deal. Even if you were getting a divorce, you're now saying he was not. So what were you doing? If you were not breaking up a marriage, but you're all booed up with somebody else's husband, hugged up like that. If my boss hugged up on me like that, we'd be in HR. That is inappropriate. So then the question is, what were you doing? You were breaking up a marriage, period, and now you're trying to clean it up and look good. I don't respect it. It's trifling, and that's the end of that for me.
Okay, mic drop there. Tia Ewing.
I just think, I mean, you're newly married. If somebody told you that as their excuse, because that's an excuse.
Yeah, that's an excuse.
What would you think about it?
Oh, I'd be mad. Yeah, it wouldn't.
It doesn't fly.
It doesn't fly. No, it doesn't.
No, and it looks horrible.
And I think we could continue to talk about this and talk about this and talk about this for even more.
I'm kind of like over talking about them though, because I'm tired of I'm tired of the excuses. But I think it is one of those moments where, you know, you have to reevaluate like how you live your life, because at any moment, something that you do in a moment, let's just put this to the side. Let's say that everything they're saying now is true. Okay, I don't believe it, but if it is true, the point is that look at how it impacted your life now from one stupid decision, whether it was in that moment, if you have been doing this for months, years, whatever. That's why it's so important to make rational decisions, because you never know when you could be caught up in something that could change the course of your life, and this has impacted their lives.
Yeah, obviously what you just said is good advice for any age, because it's not like they're spring
15.
chickens, you know, and that's a good lesson for a teenager at home. It's a good lesson for anyone, because yeah, you can I think that you're getting away with stuff, but
you never know.
Sometimes karma has other plans.
Yeah, and it comes back to bite you right in the you know what, and that's probably what has happened here. And hey, listen, I wish them the best. If you can rebound your life after being busted like that and it's being all over national TV, good for you. You deserve to have a good life still.
I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw this, I thought, okay, this is gonna last like maybe 24 hours. No, we're still talking about this 2 months later.
Why do you think that is?
I think because people love scandal. Drama, and there's so many like situations we kind of hear that are like this, but to actually see it play out, and in a viral way.
And they responded. A lot of times it happens and nobody's, honestly, it probably would have went away if they didn't respond.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, but they've embarrassed their families, their kids. I mean, just do better, people.
Anyway, in case we forgot about it, there it was again.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna be talking flu season after this break. Stay with us on Chicago Now. Welcome back to Chicago Now. You know, Tia, it's a conversation that we talk about all the time, especially as we approach the colder months, is flu season. And we know things are starting to change weather-wise, maybe right now, not right now in Chicago, but also vaccination rates are falling because of a lot of conversation that's being had. So we're going to bring in Dr. Bobby Mukamala, president of the American Medical Association, to bring down what we need to know about flu season, how to prevent the flu, vaccine safety, and why getting vaccinated this season is more important than ever. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Okay, so right off the bat, when is the best time of year to get the flu vaccine? Is it now? Is it later on in the season when things actually start progressing?
It's actually right now. I just got mine right here a couple weeks ago. And the reason is that, we live in the Midwest, right? You and I, I'm in Flint, Michigan. You guys are in Chicago. This is the season where things get a little cooler. We're inside the home. Germs just spread a little bit easier. And so this is the season where things start to pick up, right? And the peak is usually just after Christmas and the beginning of the new year. But the immunization for this is something we should get now because it kind of starts now. So this is the right time.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Mukamala, when it comes to a lot of these illnesses that we're seeing, I think the last time we had you on, we were talking about shingles and more chickenpox cases. What are you expecting this season with the flu? Do you expect it to be seriously dangerous?
You know, it always is for some people, right? I mean, if you just look at just last year, we had, I don't know, 40-some million people get sick with the flu. Half of them had to go in to see a doctor about it, and we had 600-some thousand end up in the hospital, right? And then ultimately, of course, we had about 20 to 30,000 people die. And so it is something that that people suffer from, and it's something that we should focus on trying to prevent it. And you mentioned prevention earlier. I mean, it doesn't start with getting vaccinated to prevent it, right? If you're sick, then stay out of work, stay out of school, don't spread it in case it's something other than just a common cold. So there's all those kind of good natural ways to prevent something from spreading from one person to the other. And then the way to protect if somebody is spreading it is the vaccination.
You know, Dr. Mukamala, you said prevention. One thing that we always hear is wash your hands. You know what? I'm always trying to tell people, wash your dang hands, because it does make a difference, right?
Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. Because this is something that exists on surfaces like that. And, you know, if some kid, of course, a kid does it, some adults do it too. Some kid picks their nose, and then they're hugging mom and dad, and they picked up something at school. It doesn't take much for that virus to spread.
You know, no kidding. We're dealing kind of with our own like colds that are going around the newsroom and stuff. When we talk about the flu, this might be a really silly question. Maybe I should know this answer by my late 20s. Does the flu always present itself as, you know, excuse me, but throwing up, you know, a stomach flu, or is it sometimes, you know, upper respiratory or body aches, things like that?
Yep, both actually. And so with that variability, it makes it a little bit hard. It's not like an obvious thing where you start getting bumps all over and it's like, oh, that's chickenpox, right? It ain't that easy. And so, yes, it's something that can be variable. And just like we saw with COVID, right? I mean, we saw COVID have some mild symptoms, and we saw COVID kill people and everything in between. And that's exactly what happens with the flu. You might have a snotty nose, some upper respiratory stuff, or you could barely breathe and end up in the emergency department. And so that's the variability. And that's why we shouldn't assume that, oh, if I get it, I'm going to know it, and then I'm going to go to the basement to sleep. You just don't know.
Dr. Mukamala, let me ask you that. I always say, let me ask you this, and I'm trying to change that.
It's funny because we had a whole thing yesterday, a whole
about
segment
this.
About her saying, let me ask you this.
When it comes to the flu, because there are people that have received that vaccine before the flu shot, and they felt like they then developed the flu. Can you talk to people about, you know, some people fear the side effects of actually getting that flu shot?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I got mine, you know, I got that, and I got my COVID update because I have a condition. I have some cancer issues that let me get that. And of course, that's a whole different hassle that we'll talk about later. But when you get that, of course, you're going to have a sore arm. My arm was a little sore from the 2 shots. You know, and I just, you know, felt a little tired. I got a headache just because my arm was sore. That's pretty typical stuff, right? But as far as, you know, catching the flu, that's not going to happen, right? Because it's not the same virus. It's not some live virus that's going to start spreading through you and going into your lungs. So you might have a little bit of a sore arm, but it's also the time where you could catch a cold. So if you get a flu shot and 10 days later, your nose gets a little snotty because you caught something at work, some people call that cause and effect. That's what we call correlation, but not causation. And that text right there, those words are getting a lot of publicity now too.
You know, before we get to like vaccine hesitancy, because I think that's a big topic of conversation, especially after COVID-19. You know, every year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but every year they talk about accuracy with the flu shot. Like if, you know, it covered a percentage of the flu strain. I don't know, maybe you can correct me. At what point of the flu season do we know if the flu shot is as accurate as past years?
Yeah, no, so I mean, you're spot on. So you took some science, a lot actually, to be able to notice that. But yes, so this is something that, it's a prediction, right? What we see sort of developing is what the vaccine gets developed for. And sometimes it's spot on. It's like it's perfect. And other times it's not quite as good as we want it to be to sort of have an immune reaction to the virus that's infecting us. And it's not as good. But it's always something that protects you more when you're vaccinated. At least you get some protection than no protection, and then having those consequences, and God forbid, ending up in the hospital. So there's a little bit of a predictive process to say, okay, this is what we think it's going to be. This is what we think it is going to be on a molecular level. Therefore, we're going to create this. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes it falls a little short.
Dr. Mukamala, for people that may have pre-existing conditions, Do you still advise them to get the flu shot, or do they need to talk to their doctor before they get it, depending on what their condition is?
Yeah, I mean, it depends a little bit on the condition, but the flu shot is indicated in everybody over 6 months of age, right? It was pretty much everybody except the little kids, the newborn kids. But if there's any concern that, you know what, I don't know if my immune system can take it, that sort of thing, absolutely. It's not something that you should assume the answer based on what you see on the internet. Talk to your doctor. And I would say there's probably a majority chance, a vast majority chance that the doctor is going to say, you know, if your immune system isn't quite right, then you should get a flu shot, even more so than the average person whose immune system might protect them a little bit. So, but it's always good to ask.
Every so often we're having news stories come around and talking about vaccination rate, how parents, young parents are choosing to not vaccinate their children going into school, and one of the biggest ones that they would probably skip is the flu shot. Is it still the case, or is there still that vaccine hesitancy with parents of young children? Or do you think it's changing?
I think it's changing in the wrong direction, right? And when we look at a previous generation for polio or something like that, that was something that people just sort of trusted the science, and now polio is pretty much gone, right? And so now, though, there's, I think with social media and a lot of different opinions that sort of all of a sudden start blowing up your emails and your Facebook page and that sort of thing, it plants that seed of doubt, and I think that's what's leading to this. And that's not good for the health of our country. And so if there is doubt, it's totally fine to be doubtful, right, based on what you read. It's foolish to just assume one thing and ignore the other. It's logical to have some questions. But what should you do with those questions? I wouldn't answer them based on what I see popping up on my social media. I would want them answered by somebody who spends 10,000 hours in their training, like your pediatrician or your primary care doc, or any doctor for that matter. So yes, totally fine to have some concerns based on what you read, but go a little further and look for answers for that concern from somebody that's truly studied that stuff.
With that being said, though, Dr. Mukamala, as we look towards the future, like we've seen some of these viruses pop up that we haven't seen pop up in quite some time, is there concern, though, by not being vaccinated, that if you look 10 years from now, we may see some things pop up that we haven't seen in a long time, and people are not vaccinated for it?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's a big risk with things that we've seen before that we thought were almost gone, right? I mean, look at measles. I mean, that was something that I was vaccinated for, and everyone in my class was vaccinated for, and it's just not something I ever saw until now, right? And so I look at cases like that are starting to pop up. And, you know, before vaccinations, if you look at the number of measles cases, it was way up here. And then it came down, but now it's kind of doing this, right? And so that's a problem. That's not what we want to see. So absolutely, it's something that we should work on together to keep all of us healthy instead of letting the virus take advantage of our sort of, you know, dividedness on this.
I know we're talking flu shot, but what about some of these alternatives? Like I think the nasal spray is now an option.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, this is technology, right? This is what we want to see, is something that, you know, could be mailed to your home. And that way you don't have to worry about taking a day off or trying to figure out where am I going to get this. And so there's indications for all this. There's science behind it, but that's fantastic to have that technology. That's science keeping up with the quality of our lives, right? That's what we want to preserve. So it's nice to have this technology. But again, if there's any question about, well, should I get this shot? Should I get this thing in my nose? Talk to your doctor.
Not to completely veer off subject here, but, you know, I am in a lot of mom groups because I am a mom, and a lot of moms, without any scientific support, without any research to prove this, a lot of mothers believe that vaccines see a correlation to autism. And in part, that is why there is a lot of fear of getting these vaccinations. What do you say to that? Because there is a lot of disinformation out there, some of that disinformation coming from really high places. And so a lot of people are walking around here with no proof whatsoever, believing some of this. What is your response to that as a medical professional?
Yeah, I guess my response is, as a human being, right, as a colleague, as a friend with people in my hometown that go through exactly that, I feel you, right? When we see autism rates, I mean, it's something that's more diagnosed now than ever before, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with we recognize it. I think a generation ago, when somebody just wasn't acting like the right kid, we just assumed that that was just stress or something like that. Now these things are getting diagnosed more, so I think that's why we're seeing more people diagnosed with autism. And so if I was a parent, if I was somebody at home and I was worried about my kids, or they're having some you know, symptoms like that, Then if I see something like, oh, that was something, this is something that caused it. This is related to, their Tylenol, right? Or this is related to vaccinations. All of a sudden it's like, oh, that's my explanation. But that's not based on science. And so I can understand why you think when you're looking for a solution, you're going to find something, you're going to say that's the solution, that's the cause. But that's not reality, right? There's science behind all of these hypotheses, right? Anyone that's taken a science class in high school, they know what a hypothesis is. This is what I think. But then you do studies to see, was my hypothesis right or was it wrong? And that's exactly what this shows. There's no correlation between vaccinations and this or Tylenol and this, but this is what we see a lot nowadays.
Even without being a mom myself or being in some of these mommy groups, just online in general, you see a lot of conversation, a lot of medical advice that isn't accurate being shared online. I have to ask you, I don't know if you could speak for other practicing doctors, how often do you get people coming in and saying, oh, I saw this online, this is now my opinion, this is what is right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it all the time, especially during COVID. Right, because that was brand new to everybody. It was brand new to us as the doctors in this world. And so, yes, I see that a lot. But I'm thankful for that. When somebody comes to my office, with their kids and says, you know what, I read this, what do you think? That is awesome. That is fantastic. That's exactly how it should be. But when they don't come to my office, or they come to the office and they don't even mention what's on their mind, and it's maybe a conclusion they came to, or just maybe they're trying to figure it out on their own. No, that's what we're there for, right, is to help with that answer. And so I think it's great.
You know what? That's a good perspective.
It really is.
I like that you're saying that. That is great because people are actually then trying to learn more and educate themselves.
And forced to.
Yeah, but then bringing it up to you, a professional.
Right, that can explain deeper and more.
Yeah, and we all took science. We all took it in grade school and high school. Some of us took a little more. So let's exchange what we think about science and work with each other.
Well, Dr. Mukamala, you're the president of the American Medical Association. It is always, absolutely always a pleasure to speak with you. You always make it so plain that everyone can understand.
I agree.
So thank
Yes,
you so much.
do.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
We'll
All right,
see you
do
next
the
time.
same. Okay, so coming up, we are talking Abbott Elementary. And
I'm excited.
I'm really excited about this. I'll be the wild card in the interview.
Okay.
I'll let you be the professional as you always are. We'll be right back after this break.
Nothing.
Chicago Now. You know, this is one of those interviews that I've been looking forward to all week, and I didn't know that today would be such a heavy day. And we really need, you know, some comedy, some laughter, and she is definitely bringing it. Lisa Ann Walter, and you probably know that name because she's a star I say the star, okay? I'm sorry. Hopefully they don't get mad at me, Lisa. On Abbott Elementary, playing the second grade teacher known as Melissa. You're coming to Batavia to have a comedy show. We are so excited that you're with us this morning on Chicago Now. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I always love coming to Chicago, and not just for the food. I love doing comedy there. The audiences are so great, and as you said, we need it. So I'm so happy to be coming. It's my hiatus week, and everybody's like, where are you going to go? Are you going on vacation? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do 4 shows in Batavia. That's my vacation.
I love it.
No rest,
Absolutely
no
love
rest.
It. So when I watch Abbott Elementary, we got to talk about your role. I was talking to Gabby about this in the break. I said, I wonder if these lines are like just off the cuff because they're so clever, so witty, and they're so like they just hit just right. Are some of these lines that you're giving, are they literally just off the top of your head?
Occasionally. I mean, we have incredible writers, and they are really great at the scripts are becoming more and more like our characters as they learn kind of what we do and our voices within the characters. So it's getting even closer to what we might say if we were just writing them. Every once in a while we throw in ad libs, especially if you notice towards the end of the scenes, if there are little lines that look like the characters we're just making each other laugh. At the end of the scenes, we're just throwing in little character tidbits, and sometimes Quinta loves them and keeps them in. By the way, she's the star of the show.
She is.
I'm going to get in trouble if I don't say it. Quinta Brunson, the star and creator of Abbott Elementary, and I'm lucky to get to play in the sandbox.
Such a great show. I remember when someone was first recommending it to me, and I was like, you know, comedy based off an elementary school? I don't know. I watched it, loved your character, loved them all. All right. My question is for you.
No, I want to say something to that, and then I want to hear your question. But I did the same thing. When I would hear, like, oh, this show has got kids in it, I'm like, I don't want to watch a kid show. I don't want to watch kid humor. Like, you know, I like grown-up comedy, but the kids can be funny. We have kids occasionally doing little lines in them, but the show is about the teachers. It's like when you see a teacher at the mall, and you go, what, they have a life outside of school? You know, so I think that's more the idea of the show. What's your question? I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? Well, actually, following up on that, I bet when you guys were first recording, I mean, you're probably making each other crack up. Did you think it was going to be such a hit during those first few, you know, days on set?
You know what? Almost everybody in the cast, including Tyler James Williams, who was Everybody Hates Chris, so he's been in the business since he was little. A lot of us have been around for a long time. And I remember Cheryl and Tyler shared a look to each other literally second day when we were doing scenes with each other in the teacher's lounge, which we just shot one yesterday. It's my favorite thing to do when all of us are there throwing in funny. But they looked at each other and went, Cheryl goes, can you feel it? And we all kind of went, yeah, there's chemistry here. I wasn't even worried that it wasn't going to get picked up because I knew that we had something really special. And if ABC wasn't going to snag it, somebody else would. So we all felt pretty good about it. It's the chemistry that we have with each other is special. You don't get it on hardly any shows. I mean, I think anyway.
You're right. The chemistry is really magnetic, and you can feel it. It doesn't feel fabricated. It doesn't really even feel like acting. The way that it's done, it almost
that's
feels
why you asked
like
that first question, because it feels like it's off the cuff.
Like reality showish.
Yeah, I think partly it's because we really get along. Like for real, we like each other. And I know a lot of casts say that, but we do. And if there's been like a mix of people that hasn't worked together yet, like we just had a storyline, Ava, Melissa, and Mr. Johnson, like running around doing crazy crap together. And Janelle was saying, plays Ava, she was like, we haven't done this mix before. This is good. And we're all like, yeah, like we honestly enjoy hanging out together. So I think that reads. And then when people see it, they feel like, oh, that's like my crazy work family. You know, that's like Cheryl and, Barbara and Melissa, they're work wives. And the crazy boss who does outrageous stuff, that's Ava. And I think they recognize themselves, and that's part of the success of a half-hour comedy, is feeling like you know the people.
That's true.
That's so true. And I think that's, you know, something that people love so much about The Office. And I've actually heard someone say that they, you know, they're a big fan of The Office. They watched Abbott Elementary, and they're like, oh, it feels the same. But it's different.
Yeah, and our one of our executive producers, Randall Einhorn, who was the director of all of our episodes year one, because it was during COVID. We shot during the first year of COVID, which was wild because year 2 we came back and the crew would talk to us and I'd be like, who's this now? Like, we didn't see anybody without double masks on for a whole year. So I'm like, I don't know who you are. But yeah, we were, Randall did the style of shooting on The Office where they had 3 cameras, but they didn't have 3 cameras moving all at once. He did that. He did Parks and Rec too. But our show was the first show where we have 3 cameras shooting at the same time, and they're moving. So they have to make sure that they don't like get each other in the shot, and it's really I think part of the reason why you feel like it's real is because you're watching somebody say something and the reaction in the same time. Like, we're not shooting my side and then your side has to match the level of what I did. Like, we're doing reactions at the same time we're doing the action. So it feels live.
I think it's also to the point that you just made about the cameras. It's moving in almost like a reality, like kind of way that you would expect, I guess, if it's not scripted, for the cameras to move. In terms of like being on set, doing stand-up, I'm the wild card here. I always ask the crazy question. What is the craziest thing that has ever happened to you while doing stand-up, or maybe something that happens on set that no one would ever expect?
Oh, golly.
You have to have one crazy story.
People ask about on set, you know, I always feel like for an interview, I should have something loaded up, ready to go. But I mean, we're all really professional on set. There are things that happen that aren't fun, so I shouldn't say those. But like, there are things that happen where, you know, somebody is having a really bad day and we all know it, and we just gather around that person and love them and take care of them. But that's not a funny thing. I remember one thing that was really fun. So we are known for our Halloween episodes. And you know, we have the kids dress up, and it's always a really difficult episode, but it's super fun because you got a whole school full of kids running around in costume. Well, one day we walked in, and not only were all the kids in costume, the crew had dressed up like us, like our characters, like our
That's
first
so funny.
operators. And we walked in, and there's somebody in a red wig being Melissa. My hair guy, usually my hair looks a lot better than this. I could pick up my hair and show you.
Beautiful. You look great. That's actually the first thing I noticed about you.
Wait, you're picking up a wig?
This is the rest of Melissa. But I was at Dancing with the Stars last night because my best girlfriend is competing, so I was over there in my work hair. But anyway, he was dressed up like Jacob, and I thought it was Chris Perfetti. Like, they look similar enough where I was like, so Chris, and then that's not Chris. We have a good time on set.
Okay,
we
gotta go back to that week.
Here's the thing about stand-up. It is always something you don't expect. The great thing about live comedy, like, people will watch stand-up specials on their TV. I shot one in the summer, and it's going to be, I'll come back on to promote that. That's going to be in January of 2026. It's going to air on Hulu. But the great thing about stand-up is that if you are a fan of live comedy, each show is different. It is never the same. I could base it off the same material, but there's always something that's going to happen different. There's always somebody in the crowd that I talk to that makes for a different show. Something wild always happens. And so that's why I love going to live comedy, and that's why I recommend it to people, because you'll never get the same show. Your experience will not be the same as the people that came to the 8 o'clock show, which, by the way, the early shows are almost sold out. So if you want to get tickets to Batavia, you got to start loading up the late night shows.
Okay, good to know. I'm looking at your hair, and I would have never known that, looking at your hair now and how beautiful it is, that on the show you're wearing that wig. I got to see that wig. Hold that wig up.
You already have so much hair. Where does that hair even fit?
My hairdresser is going to kill me.
Why?
Dustin is going to kill me that that's my hair.
That's the hair you wear on the show.
It goes like this.
Let's see.
I mean, it goes underneath, but it fills in.
Oh, it's like a fall.
Oh, I need one of those.
I see.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. But your hair is already so beautiful.
Yeah, it's already so, like, luscious.
Well, you know, when I got jealous, all my castmates were wearing wigs. I wanted a wig.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's a nice wig.
for everyone.
How much does a wig like that cost? That is a nice wig.
Listen, he does an amazing job, Dustin, my hair god. People will compliment my hair, and I'm like, this is Dustin's hair. I just stand under it. He's nominated for like 4 Emmys. I'm not nominated for any. So who's the star of the show, really?
Soon you will be.
It's coming. Come on.
Tell Dustin
it's coming.
Tell Dustin to come through Chicago, all right, for us.
Yeah. He always wants to come with me when I do stand up. He's always like, girl, I'll come with you. And I'm like, actually, I'm not paying for you to have a flight in a hotel room. I'm doing my own hair for 2 days.
Well, now that you're coming to Chicago and we're friends, you're going to have to come to studio and bring Dustin.
For sure.
Anyway, let's talk more about the Batavia show and what people can expect.
For the stand-up show?
Yes.
Well, you know, like I said, we shot the hour that I was building, and I've been to the Vault in Batavia. I've done Zanies in Rosemont. People in the Chicagoland area have seen my show. What you should know is that this is an almost entirely new hour from what you've seen before. It's a lot more people that have come to the show know that I do a comedy song. We've got 9 in the show now. And they're really funny about all different things. And, you know, it's just fun. It really is, at a time, as we started the show saying, at a time when people are really worried, you know, that people go through their day worried about money, worried about, you know, the bigger things, the meta things politically. This show is just about having fun and laughing at our common, you know, issues and the things that we all meet day to day. Yelling at people in traffic. You know, this stuff, it's a throwback to when we could all just be mad at the same thing.
So true. You've already been a star, right? But now with this show, I would say that, and maybe you can attest to this, that your star power has been elevated even more. How has your life changed? You know, are you able to just go stroll at the grocery store? How has your life changed since this, based on your visibility being so popular even more now?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't mind meeting people. And the wild thing is, as you said, I don't know that I was always a star. I've been a working actor, and I was lucky enough to be in a movie that people still love, which is The Parent Trap. Mm-hmm. And every day, Elaine Hendricks is my best friend. She played Meredith in the movie. And both of us, every single day that we go out, even before Abbott, we get recognized somewhere. If I talk, I get recognized. Because people don't expect somebody that looks like me to have been Chessie. I think they think I was like 50 then. So I think they're expecting, you know, tight pin curls and, you know, an apron. But which, by the way, I'm this close. I'm this close to being that person. But we've always kind of gotten stopped. I don't mind it. I think when people stop you and say, I don't mean to bother you, but I just want to tell you that I love you. I'm like, I'm not bothered. I have kids at home that ignore me. This is fine.
Well, that's a good attitude to have. To piggyback off of Tia's question earlier about what's the craziest thing that's happened on set, do you have like a crazy fan interaction that's ever happened to you?
And you were like, I got to get out of this. This is wild.
You know what? It happened in Chicago. I don't know if I would call it crazy.
Wow. Okay.
So I shot a movie in like kind of the suburbs of Chicago in July, a long time ago. Let's see, I was still with my second husband. What year was it? 2001-ish, 2002.
Okay.
And I was walking down the street. You can't keep me away from downtown. First of all, I love shopping down there. I love popping into Garrett's, get me some Chicago mix. We go to, you know, we went and had Gibson steak, you know, a couple of nights. Like, I love going out downtown. And I was walking downtown and I hear Lisa Ann Walter. And I was like, what? And I turned around and some guy is standing on the sidewalk, and I immediately start going into my lie mode. You know how when you run into someone and they know you, but you don't know them, and you're like, your brain is going through the Rolodex of where do I know them from? Did we go to high school together? And I stopped and I went, hey. The name didn't come. Did we go to school together? And he goes, no, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of yours. And I went, a fan that knows my whole name? Like, not you're the nanny in The Parent Trap. My name. It was the first time that it ever happened to me. Like, people had stopped me at airports when I had a show that I wrote and starred in called Life's Work that was on ABC in the mid 90s, late 90s. And people would stop me at airports like, oh my God, we love you. My wife and I watch. It's like you're in our house. Nobody knew my name. This guy knew my name. So for that reason, if no other reason, I love Chicago.
Well, that's a good reason.
You are a star.
You are a star. This is my final question for you, and then I'm going to let you go. You mentioned it, so I'm going there, okay? You said my second husband. So what's your love life like now? Scratch his head. Thinks about it.
My love life? Nobody asked me out, you guys.
Really? As beautiful as
nobody.
you are.
I've had a couple of pretty big stars, like, in person kind of go like, you know, act like they were interested. And I just laughed, like, because they were younger. So I assumed they were goofing. Like, they don't want to go out with me. Like, I'm older. And I don't really want to date young men. That's a problem. Can I tell you the truth?
Tell us the truth.
First of all, like, when you're at work, nobody's going to approach me because there's so many rules and nobody wants to, like, talk to a person. I can't talk to crew because I could get written up by HR. Like, I can't go up to somebody like, hey. Like, I can't, you can't flirt with people in a different strata than you. I don't want to date actors because we're cuckoo. So you got to have, I feel like it's the movie Highlander. Excuse me, I'm doing an interview. My dog.
I'm like, who you're talking to?
It's wherever. We can't, wait. So I can't like approach people, and I don't want to date somebody that does what I do. And then if they're in my generation, they only want women that are 20 years younger and 20. I'm 20 pounds and years over their limit. That's the problem. I want to date guys my own age, but they're like fussy.
Maybe
you know what? I also live in LA, and people are not normal here.
Yeah,
I've said
I've heard that.
And I got it. This is who's bothering me. This.
Oh, hi, cutie.
I have got to find somebody from a normal city like Chicago, Atlanta.
Midwestern men. I mean,
yeah,
you can't go wrong.
Chicago,
you can't
Midwestern men. Yeah,
I think
you can't go wrong.
And then they don't have to even move. I'll do what Cheryl does. I'll just like live separate in a separate city because I don't have any room left in my closet. I want a man in my life, just not in my closet. Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Or the place has to be really big. I get it, and you can have your own wing.
He's got to come with his own house.
Yeah.
True.
Oh, okay.
Or a storage unit in the driveway
That's
or
fine
something
too.
like that.
I wasn't expecting you to go there, but you went there, and I get it. So your show is go ahead. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I'm about truth telling. That's what you can expect from shows. I tell the truth. I show you my hair.
Everything.
You know, I love this interview.
Yeah, I love the realness of you. So your shows are in Chicago. They're almost sold out. So make sure people go and get their tickets. Lisa and Walter, it has been an absolute joy. You brightened our spirits. You did. You really brightened our spirits today.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for having me. See you soon, Chicago.
All right. See you soon. All right. That was great.
You know what? I loved her before that conversation.
Love her
even more now.
What was it? What's the deal? Was it the hair?
The wig. She's so real. You know what? I would have went through all this time thinking that she just had that great, big, luscious hair, which I know now she does.
It's just a little addition. Yeah, a little addition. Nothing wrong with adding a little something. All right, we're going to talk about something a little more serious. When we come back, we're talking about the ICE situation that unfolded in Dallas and really what that means here in Chicago now. We'll have that for you right after this break. Welcome back to Chicago Now. We want to talk to Paris Schutz, our political reporter, about the shooting that happened in Dallas. Paris, we don't have a lot of time, but we know this happened at 6:40, same time here as in Chicago. Bring us up to speed on what we've learned. We know there was a press conference and really what it means for the ICE facility here in the Chicagoland area.
Well, it's at a similar facility, allegedly in Dallas, as the one in Broadview, a holding facility here. And I have to admit, all I know is what I've been following from the reports out of Dallas. Tia, one confirmed dead, according to the FBI and local law enforcement. Two injured. What they suspect is they're all detainees that were caught up in this, that none of the actual ICE agents or law enforcement agents were hurt. And they've said it was a shooter that was in another building that shot into this building. They believe it was political in nature. They say that they had discovered an anti-ICE message on one of the shell casings. And that's what we know at this point. And I believe the suspect is dead, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. And, you know, this comes as Chicago has dealt with its own controversy over ICE and protests at ICE facility in Broadview. And of course, we have what happened in Franklin Park a little less than 2 weeks ago, where a suspected undocumented immigrant, Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, was shot and killed by ICE agents after resisting a traffic stop. So one of the things we're following with that, though, Tia, is that like the official Homeland Security narrative on that.
We're going to have to interrupt you because we have a hard out here in 5 seconds. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have much more on this on Fox 11 News at noon.
Yeah, and of course on Fox32Chicago.com.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at noon.
Next at noon, breaking news: a deadly shooting at an ICE detention facility in Dallas. What investigators are now saying.
Overnight, a shooting outside of a South Loop grocery store. We'll tell you what led up to this incident.
And a cool